I'm enjoying this just a little bit, you know what I mean? Oh, nothing like a Swedish beauty. This is Carol's Swedish beauty, by the way. Carol from New Hampshire, unless I got the state wrong. I don't think so, but... And Carol is also, not to make her blush, but she's also a Swedish beauty, by the way. She shared that with me over the phone. She said, I'm Swedish too, but my husband doesn't necessarily always call me a Swedish beauty. I said, he's gonna start. As soon as this machine hits your doorstep, game over. It's time to be romantic and get sewing. You know it is. Speaking of sewing, let's do a little bit of that, shall we? Let's do some genuine, I almost said cowhide. Let's do some genuine elk hide. Here we go. Down. That was too quick. We gotta do that a little bit more. We gotta lay down a zigzag. Otherwise this Swedish beauty is gonna be offended. Alright, let's see what we get this time. You just never know on this channel, do you? Alright, I heard somebody say power. Is that what you said, power? All right. Put on your seatbelt. And that was perfectly ended with the song. I didn't even plan that. So as I was saying, Carol contacted me. And we started talking about machines. And then we got on the topic of Swedish beauties. Game over. Although Carol also obviously has other machines in her collection and was raised on a white rotary model 77. I don't know if you've ever heard of that model or not. As were her sisters. And they affectionately call themselves the Three Stitchin' Sisters. That's almost fun to say, isn't it? The Three Stitchin' Sisters. And they are all passionate about their sewing. So let me buzz down just one more time, just for a little bit of fun with this Viking Husqvarna CL21A. And the CLA is just a nomenclature that Husqvarna is stuck in front of it. I was doing research on the different letters that they threw in front of their different model numbers, and even invited Hans to step in as well, because he's closer to Sweden than I am. And he goes, man, that's just what they just choose letters and stuff and assign them to the machines, and it's pretty random. So whether it's a CL21A, a CI21A, a 21A, and a partridge in a pear tree. I mean, they're all Swedish beauties. All right, speaking of that, hush, quiet, listen. Here we go. Yep. That's what sewing is. Just sewing away over here, effortlessly. Effortlessly. I don't know if these clippers are more dull on this workbench or on the other workbench, but I think they're all getting to be a close second, to say the least, or maybe a first. Okay, let me lean this up against the presser foot and I will zoom in on these. This is a single layer of genuine elk hide, and if you're not familiar with genuine elk hide, and I've got my camera facing the wrong way, my screen I should say, that's what a single layer of genuine elk hide looks like. We're talking about 4 ounces of hardcore, go ahead and try to pierce me type leather. And this is chemically processed, as I share over and over again, just so I can get that point across, because as soon as you chemically process a leather type hide, whether it's elk or deer or anything else in between, you raise the piercing threshold of that dramatically. And this has been chemically processed, and so we're talking about 4 ounces on camera, but it's the equivalent of probably 6, maybe almost going towards 8 ounces of standard type leather because of that chemical process. And yet Carol's CL21A laid down stitching that is absolutely, what? Yep, brag-worthy. Absolutely brag-worthy. Let me zoom in on this and give you a closer look. Actually, we're not that far off right now. So we'll look at that first row, and I'm going to try to go steady across as much as I can. Spacing, the formation, the integrity of that stitch is just absolutely spot on. We get on the row 2, and that's a zigzag that I just kind of decided to pop on there. Look at that. It's absolutely picture perfect in every way. And then we finally go to this last row, which may have been the first row. I don't remember how I started this. But once again, the spacing, the formation, the integrity of that stitch is just absolutely spot on. And I blasted through a couple of these, probably at about, 50 to 60% of foot controller power. I almost said presser foot power. We're really going to confuse people on this channel, aren't we? And then we turn it over, and let's look at that lock stitch. And with the nap of this elk hide, it's actually easier to see with clarity that lock stitch than it is the top stitch. I mean, to my eye anyway. It's just that much easier to see. So once again, whenever you're laying down a lock stitch, because that thread has to get pulled back up through this 4+ ounces of genuine elk hide, if you can get really, really good definition, as we did, on that lock stitch, then you have a machine that is running at the top of its game. And there's no difference on that zigzag. Look at that. Absolutely spot on in every respect. And then finally, last or first, the straight stitch that we did, absolutely spot on. Again, we're talking, this is the lock stitch, folks. There are people that would drool to get a top stitch that looks like this, that Carol's machine just laid down totally effortlessly. I mean, it just made it look like we were sewing a single layer of like super light cotton, and it blasted through this chemically processed genuine elk hide, 4+ ounces of this stuff. It went through it just like it was lickety split. I mean, no difficulty whatsoever. I'm going to pop on a little bit more music, and let me see what we can get on next here. Ooh, this is kind of cool. All right, I'm going to throw this one to the rear because it obviously was a success. Did y'all catch a glimpse of who's standing behind Carol's machine? Yeah. None other than His Majesty, King Adolphus. Looking really good, sir. Looking really good. Or I should say King Gustavus Adolphus, but you know what I meant, sir. You got a really long name. Mine's just Scott. So, let's get back over to your Swedish beauty, sir. All right. So what should we do next? I've got a variety of choices. We've got that nylon webbing. We've got more leather. I've got a lot of leather to sew with Carol's machine. So let me turn this down just a little bit. Turn it way down. I think that's soft enough, don't you? Alright, so why don't we do some nylon webbing? I just mentioned it. And we will go through, if you're new to this channel, then you don't know that this nylon webbing is basically a tow strap. You can pull a car or a truck with it. A single layer of this, what I'm touching right here, has a tensile strength of about 2,000 pounds. 2,000 pounds. And we're going to go through 2 layers of it with Carol's Swedish Beauty. You can look at that from the side. Nothing to scoff at, nothing lightweight about that whatsoever. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up underneath the presser foot. And I should probably check my presser foot pressure as well, because we're going to be going through something that is pretty hardcore. So let me do that. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're okay. Alright, so 2 layers of this nylon webbing. Might as well just say towing strap, although nylon webbing sounds a lot more impressive, doesn't it? So I'm going to buzz down doing a zigzag. I've said this before. As soon as you incorporate needle swing on a machine, you immediately are making whatever you're sewing more difficult, because that needle is not going in a straight path. It's having to swing and sway from left to right and catch that material just in the right timing to pierce through it and to pull that stitch up. So if you can sew something like this with a zigzag, that says a lot. So I'm going to buzz down, we'll probably turn, and then buzz back to the finish with this zigzag. Are you ready? Okay, give a listen to this Swedish Beauty that is heading out soon to New Hampshire to join another Swedish Beauty, Carol. All right, here we go. Kind of going up and down on the pedal there. I should probably be steady. Steady and ready, right? I'm controlling it right now intentionally. Intentionally controlling it. Now I'll have a little bit of fun going to the finish. Alright, there we go. Alright, so down to the finish with a zigzag with this CL21A. 1.5 amps. That's the first time I've mentioned that in this premiere. 1.5 amp motor, so you know it's got the gusto. Alright, so let me just go ahead and get this going, and let's get this done. Here we go. Yeah, a little bit more fun going back to the finish line. It's always fun getting to the finish though, isn't it? Any of you that are involved in racing and stuff like that, you know what I'm talking about. You run that race and you see the finish line coming into view, and then all of a sudden you get that second wind and you're like, I can do this. I can totally do this. Alright, let's get these threads. Just wax this bed. So I turned this a little bit. I don't know if you saw that in the camera. It's probably off camera, but it kind of slid off the bed like, phew! Kind of like putting wax on a surfboard or putting wax on skis, I suppose, huh? Alright. I'm trying to remember which way I had this facing. I'm pretty sure that this is top stitch. So I'm going to zoom in on this. You can look at these 2 layers of nylon webbing. Combined tensile rating on this this sew-off is 4,000 pounds. 4,000 pounds. And that zigzag could not be any more spot on than it is. Look at that. Absolutely as it should be. Even going around these little turns where I kind of lifted that presser foot. Just absolutely gorgeous. And you heard the machine. Didn't have any music playing, so you could hear that machine kick in on the sew-off. And there just was, look at that. Gosh, we do insane things on this channel, don't we? Probably cause other people heart attacks on these other channels where they're sewing this super light stuff, and then they come to this channel and it's like sewing on steroids. There's a new title. Let me come out of this shot a little bit. We'll flip it over and look at the lock stitch. Sewing on steroids. I might use that again. You never know. So there's our lock stitch. Let me zoom in on that as well, and we'll kind of buzz around. And even on the corners where I made those turns, just absolutely spot on. You just can look at that stuff. It's like a catacomb type woven material, and it just basically says, yeah, go for it, buddy. Give me your best. Give me your best shot. Well, you never say that to a Swedish beauty, because she is going to kick your bobbin all the way across the room. So, at any rate, 2 layers of this nylon webbing, not even really a challenge for this Swedish beauty. This CL21A with a 1.5 amp motor. I'm going to throw that to the back as well as a definite pass. And we're going to continue on our march. We've got a couple more leathers to sew. It looks like genuine cowhide. It looks like protected full grain leather. And then, of course, U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm hoping I can find some more Army canvas soon, because I'm starting to get low. So if any of you, as this social distancing, as this social distancing comes to a conclusion and rummage sales kick in and thrift shops open and all that, if you come across any nice U.S. Army grade style canvas, kind of like you see me use on this channel all the time, and you decide you want to make a donation, I would be really grateful. Matter of fact, if you send me some U.S. Army grade canvas, I'll send you something back as a special thank you, as a special surprise. Yes, I'm wiping the bed off. How can you not wipe the bed off when you've got a Swedish beauty like this? You got to keep her looking beautiful, right? Although that's pretty easy for a Swedish beauty. That's pretty doggone easy for a Swedish beauty. They just always look gorgeous. All right. So let's see what we're going to do next. Let's go ahead and, I'm kind of debating. Thinking about doing protected full grain leather. The way I cut this piece, I really didn't cut it to accommodate 2 layers, which is a little bit disappointing. But I'm going to see if I can go ahead and buzz down and make my turn, and then come back to the finish again on this protected full grain leather. I don't even have my heater going today, and it's so quiet down here. Just listen. It's crazy, crazy quiet. I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I should start humming or something. Okay, so here again is Carol's CL21A. Absolutely incredible Swedish beauty, ready to rock and roll, ready to roll and rock. And I'm going to get that take-up arm to the highest position. We're going to buzz down, turn, and then come back to the finish on a single layer of protected full grain leather. Not really even a challenge for this machine, but we'll just focus on listening to the machine run and just enjoy the sewing experience. So, all right, here we go. Single layer protected full grain leather. I'm so close to the end. I'm too close to the end. Ugh. Yeah, it's okay. I'll give it my best. I'll give it my best. I'm going to cut it short this time so I don't have to battle this. I could have gone further over, but I am not going to do it. Not going to do it. All right, to the finish with a zigzag on a single layer of protected full grain leather. Again, we're still probably talking about 3 to 4 ounces of leather. All right, you ready? Here we go. And I am not going to close the box. I'm going to leave the box open this time. Just am. Gonna leave the box open. Any of you are watching right now and giving me a thumbs down because I didn't close the box? Well, okay. Good luck with that. Some of you just don't believe me when I tell you. I get nasty notes from people about what I think are the silliest things sometimes, including when I don't close off the boxes like this. So I'm expecting a couple more emails. You never know. They might send it through Facebook Messenger, and then if they catch Hans or Bill on a bad day, those guys might ban them from the channel. You never know. Won't you talk to Scott like that? You're banned. Oh, these are good men. They probably wouldn't. They might do it. You never know. All right. So a single layer of protected full grain leather, and just an absolutely gorgeous zigzag going across. You can see I was kind of goofing around with this with a straight stitch before. You can see my little trail there. And then this is our turning point here on the end where we kind of make our turns. And then heading towards the finish, just a beautiful zigzag going all the way down. And again, if you've never sewed protected full grain leather before, give it a try. And then you can say, well, geez, you know, is a single layer really a challenge? You might discover that it is for your machine. Definitely not for Carol's machine. And then this is obviously our lock stitch. Absolutely gorgeous. Just the spacing, the formation, the integrity of the stitch. Except when I make my little corners, then things get kind of goofy. But when I'm sewing on a straight path, you know, doing as I should do, that spacing and formation and the presentation of that stitch is just absolutely spot on. And you can just look at that grain on the back of this protected full grain leather, and you can know right away this stuff is just like, yeah, give me your best shot, buddy. Like I said, don't say that to a Swedish beauty. Do not say that to a Swedish beauty. So this single layer protected full grain leather, which is almost a laughable challenge for this Viking Husqvarna CL21A, definite pass. Throwing that to the back as well. So, you know, whenever I put a machine on a premiere, whenever I'm getting ready, I do quite a bit of, if you don't know this, I do quite a bit of preparation getting ready to do these premieres. And then, you know, you're on live basically, and you've got the stressor of that as well. And I try to set up these sew-offs so that the machine can show its stuff. You're never going to see on one of my optimized machines, you're never going to see the max, the full potential of that, because it's really almost impossible. I would have to go through probably 5-6 more sew-offs and continue to escalate. That's a tough word to say, almost like limousine or vacuum or something. But you know what? I want to first of all let you listen to the machine, let you hear what a totally optimized, restored machine sounds like. If you're hearing Carol's on this premiere, that's what your goal is if you're trying to restore your machine. Or if you're having someone else restore your machine, if it doesn't sound as silky smooth as this Swedish beauty, then you're missing an opportunity. And so that's number one. I want you to just hear how beautifully and effortlessly this machine runs. Second thing is stitch quality. I want you to see the stitches up close and personal. I want you to really, really just celebrate the fact, as many of you have said, both during live premieres in the chat and otherwise, how do you do it, man? Your stitches are absolutely perfect. Well, absolute perfection is one of those things that's hard to qualify, but it definitely is something I strive towards, and that's all part of the restorative process. Like I said, 126 steps that I take Swedish beauties through, whether it's Carol's machine here that I sourced and from my personal collection and then prepared and restored and finalized for her, or whether it's these machines on the other workbench that came from the great state of Arizona. And you've seen this stuff popping up on Facebook if you do Facebook. These are the 3 machines that belong to Chris. And I've got to cheat and look at Chris's last name. And I don't have it on my summary sheet. What the heck? Okay, I got it now. Chris Pulvermacher. Chris Pulvermacher from Arizona. So Chris Pulvermacher brought me these 3 Swedish beauties. And you know what? I'm going to give them a name. Why don't I do that? Why don't I call them the Brothers 3? And I know it seems odd to say the Brothers 3 to 3 Swedish beauties, but you know what? I think it fits. So Chris's Brothers 3 are almost all the way ready. Almost already good to go. The one in the front is finished. The other 2 in the back are still in process and have some issues with items being broken on them. For example, let's see, which is it? I'm trying to remember my order here. This is, and this is how Chris and I labeled them. This is Machine A is finished. Machine B is in process right now, probably about 60% done. And then finally, Machine C over here, it needs a new balance wheel because that balance wheel is cracked. It needs a carrying case, and it needs new pads on the bottom. And when I'm able to do it, if someone sends me a machine or drops off a machine, as Chris did, and they're missing something. Let's say the Swedish Beauty is missing an extension bed. You saw that recently on that premiere of that 19E special that I ended up shipping back to Indiana. That customer, as you might remember, had bought that machine on eBay, I believe it was, or Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, and then had it shipped from Madison, Wisconsin up to the workshop. Well, a number of the things that had been kind of promised weren't fulfilled, including an extension bed. So I was able to get that customer an extension bed and then send that machine back complete. And it's just like in Chris's situation, actually 2 of these machines, now that I think about it, 2 of these machines needed carrying cases. And if you don't know it, those carrying cases for Swedish Beauties, they're not easy to get a hold of. The only thing more difficult to get a hold of are the black cams that go in the back of these machines. And I had to also supply a couple of those as well, I believe. Yeah, machine, let's see. Machine A, the one in the very front, needed a carrying case. The machine in the back left, which is Machine C, like I said, it needs a balance wheel, it needs a carrying case, it needs new pads for the bottom, and then obviously a deep cleaning, complete service, tuning, optimization, all of that. And then the machine in the far right corner, on the right side, which is Machine B, needed Cam C, belts. All these machines needed belts, long belt, short belt, and that's, and then obviously all of the machines are going to get fully tuned, optimized, adjusted, etc., 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 etc. But it just goes to show you, it's not a matter of a simple service like you would get at that local sewing shop. If you go in there and you say, "Oh yeah, I need a tune-up on the machine," and the gentleman or lady says, "Okay, it's going to be," and I'm just spitballing, depending on where you are in the country, probably average is about 125, 150. And then you say to them, "Oh, and by the way, I need a Cam C, and I need an extension bed, and I need a carrying case." Yeah, you're already there. They're going to give you a look like you just fell off the turnip truck and you don't know what the heck you're talking about, because there's no way that they're going to do that for you. They're just not. They can't. But I will. You send me a Swedish Beauty, I will go out of my way to try to get you what you need so that that Swedish Beauty is complete, whether it's a new balance wheel like Machine C on the far left, or whether it's an extension bed, or whether it's carrying cases for the machine. I'll do my very best for you, just as I'm doing for Mr. Chris Pulvermacher. I hope I said that right. Did I say that right? Yeah, I did. Wow. Chris Pulvermacher from the great state of Arizona. So these Brothers 3 are soon going to be done. I think Chris and I agreed that we're not going to ship them back. He's going to have a family member meet me. I believe it was his mom. And she lives in Wisconsin. And then I will get these machines back to her. And then I think she's going to be taking a trip after the coronavirus craze. And we move into the full, the full scope of summer. I think she's going to be driving out to Arizona to see her son. And then she'll haul these out there with her and get them back to Chris. So I think that's our game plan. I'll have to reach out to him and just clarify it. But really cool machines. Really cool machines. And it almost feels like a Swedish Beauty, what would I call it? Smorgasbord? We're not going to eat them. Although they're gorgeous and yummy enough looking to eat. But we've got Chris's 3, and then we'll get back over on the other workbench to Carol's absolutely drop-dead gorgeous Swedish Beauty. Oh, and I should mention real quick before I forget. Actually, I already swung the camera back, so I guess I did forget. Now I'm remembering. But when it comes to these Swedish Beauty green machines, if you happen to acquire one, or if you have one and the foot controller fails, and you go to eBay or you go to Bonanza or you go to Etsy or you go to any of those other places, and you have someone that is listing a foot controller for sale, really be careful about making sure that that foot controller is a match for this, for that particular Swedish Beauty that you have. The fact that it has blade style plug-in points on the end of that foot controller and that it will plug into your machine does not necessarily mean that it's the correct foot controller. And the beauty of the Swedish Beauty foot controllers, and actually I'll try to grab, actually it's probably easier to grab Chris's. Let me grab Chris's off of the ground. I think you'll be able to see this. You might be able to see this. See if I can elevate it. I just don't want it to slide off the table. And I forgot to mention, and I'm swinging the camera back. Carol, I'm sorry. The focus of this premiere is obviously your machine, but I'm kind of bouncing between because we have so many Swedish Beauties right now on the radar. So this is the foot controller for one of Chris's Swedish Beauties. And you'll see at the very top of it, that top line, if I keep the camera from moving around, you'll see it. I'm trying, folks. I really am. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. You'll see at the very top, it says, only for Husqvarna sewing machines CI21. Or, does it have an or after that? Yeah, it does. Type FR340. What the heck does that mean? Well, two of these machines on this workbench right now are CI21As. And again, the CI versus CL versus just 21A, from what Hans and I have been able to find out, and if someone out there has more information than we were able to source, by all means share it with me and I will broadcast it. But the CL versus the CI versus the 21A, they're all going to have very similar attributes. Now when you move over to the Type 21s and you move over to the 21Es or the 19E Specials, you're going to have some differences. But you can see this foot controller is set up with a voltage of 110 and then 60, I think that is cycles, 60 cycles as far as the way it processes electricity. And then the 140 on the bottom, and I'm not a licensed electrician. I know my friend Tom from the Madison area. Remember Tom, he brought up all those machines and two of them were for his daughters. He's a licensed electrician, but I believe the 140 is something like the ohms or something like that. So, but at any rate, all of these need to match the machine that you're setting them up with. So this particular one is really compatible with the CI21 or the CI21A. And these two machines, I'm going to come out in this shot. And I'm going to check my cheat sheet here just to make sure I'm right. So, yeah, okay. So, the machine right in the front that's finished, I've already taken it through the full restorative process. It's been optimized. It's ready to go out the door. The one right in the front, that's machine A. Machine A is a CI21A. And then if you look at machine B to the right, far right, that also is a CI21A. So the foot controller I'm showing you that's flipped over right now will work perfectly with either one of those machines. And then all the way in the back left is a Type 21. It may or may not be compatible. And some of those Type 21s as well, as you might recall, come with the tube style plugins instead of the blade style plugins. So it may, even if you wanted to try it, it may not plug into the machine. But Husqvarna has generally done a real good job on the back of their foot controllers of labeling what that foot controller is compatible with as far as the green machines in particular. So just double check that. If you're looking to buy a Swedish Beauty and you get that machine, you get that foot controller in, don't immediately assume that that person that you bought it from, unless it's me, don't assume that that person really knows anything about the compatibility of foot controllers with that particular model of Husqvarna Viking. We've seen that before where someone will have a Kenmore 1.2 amp machine and they'll have a 0.6 amp foot controller with it. And they're like, I don't get it. Why is this foot controller always getting so hot? Let's see here. Wow. Yeah, because you're not really, you're less of an electrician than I am. You've got a 1.2 amp motor that's trying to pull all of that amperage to that 1.2 amp motor, and it's pulling it through a 0.6 amp foot controller, and that poor foot controller can't keep up with it. It's like the older computers in the day where you've got a CPU processor and you've got only so much RAM, but you're trying to download or run a program that requires a much faster processor and much more RAM than you have, and you're like, why does this stupid program run so poorly? Yeah. So just be watchful of that. Be watchful of that, because just because a foot controller will connect to a machine doesn't mean it's the appropriate foot controller. And it may even run, but it may either run at a non-optimal level, or it might also cause stress to that machine. So, and we don't want to stress Swedish Beauty. It's just, it's not right. It's not right. All right. Finally, back to Carol's machine. Carol, you are so patient. Oh, and I'm such a 9-year-old. And I will also zoom in real quick on a mug, because I am wanting to acknowledge that this weekend, obviously, on Sunday, with all the changes that have come about because of our corona craze, it does not change the fact that we need to honor moms, whether past, present, or future. And what I mean by that is moms that have passed away, to remember them and just what a blessing they were to our lives. Present, you know, moms that are obviously, you know, they might have grown kids, but you know what? Hey, news alert, those grown kids are always going to be their babies, right? Or future moms, moms that are not yet being able to claim the title of being a mom, but are, you know, they have that anticipation. Maybe it's a planning issue, maybe it's other challenges, whatever it is. And let me just say this, whether you become a mom because of natural means, or you're an adoptive type mom, or you're taking care of, you know, kids in your neighborhood, who knows what it is. If you're exercising those mom skills, you're a mom. There's only a mom, for goodness sakes. There's not a mom like this. I mean, moms are so much simpler than these Husqvarnas. You know what I'm saying? We've got machine A, B, and C, and CI21, and type 20. That is so complicated. Keep it simple. So if any of you out there are remembering past, present, or future mom, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for all you've done for your family. Thanks for all you've done for your kids. Thanks for the blessing that you are to kids in the neighborhood, kids that you have contact with that may not have the best home situations, and you have the opportunity to be a mom to them. It may come through Girl Scouts, it may come through Boy Scouts, it might come through different Christian groups that you're involved with, where you have the opportunity, Sunday school, maybe vacation Bible school, whatever it is, you have a chance to impact that little life because they're not getting that impact at home. You're a mom. That's good stuff. Oh, I'm going to get... That's good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Back to Carol's machine. We got some more sewing to do, folks. So, at any rate, purpose of that, all that stuff was just to point out some of Chris's machines that are still in process, and also to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody. And no, that's not to all you guys that watch this channel. You know, you've got great father skills, poppy skills, papa skills, and there's probably a million other names that kids will assign to their dads, grandpas, etc. But I have no idea. So, all right, let me set this off camera. I'm setting down Chris's foot controller again so it doesn't slide off the table. We hear a crash and I go, oh boy, Chris, I got to get you a foot controller too. We don't need to add that to the list. Okay, I'm going to take a little drink of water, quick little break, and I'm going to put on, yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? How long does that run? That runs longer than I want. Darn it. Let's try this one. Let's try this one while I get a drink of water. I think there's a song there. It's just kind of starting quiet. Well, I hope you folks are still doing well. Ooh, this is kind of dramatic. I might leave this going. Oh, I gotta leave this going. So any of you like the box closers that get really upset when I play music and do sew-offs at the same time, you might want to get a paper bag and do some deep breathing so you can stay calm and don't immediately click that thumbs down. Okay? We're not done with the premiere yet, for goodness sakes. All right, so let's do some genuine cowhide, shall we? Let's do some genuine cowhide. I'm liking this song a lot. All right, let's start with a single layer, and I'm going to switch this back to a straight stitch, and then we're going to fold this over and try to lay down a zigzag going down 2 layers of this. Again, I'm not testing this machine to the max. I know my one premiere on the cobbler machine that I did down by the Bay of Green Bay got all kinds of thumbs downs, and I'm sure it's because they felt that I didn't push that machine hard enough. That's not our goal in these premieres. It's to demonstrate the strength of the machine, but it's not to demonstrate the max strength of the machine. I've already said that's impossible to do unless you do 6, 7, 8 more sew-offs, which we don't have time to do. So if you want to give a thumbs down because you think I didn't press that machine hard enough, go for it. My point here with Carol's machine is I'm going to do 2 layers, which is about 8 to 10 ounces. I think that's a sufficient challenge to demonstrate the strength of this CL21A 1.5 amp motor, but it's not pushing this machine to the max. I'll just say it, it's not. This machine can go much further than that. Okay, that was a cool little tune, huh? And I don't remember what the tune name was. And I didn't tell you any of the tune names, so I better just be consistent and not tell you the name of that one either. Okay. So we're going to be going down a single layer, about 3 to 4 ounces. with a straight stitch, and then I'm going to fold this in half. We're going to go down again with 2 layers, which is about 8 to 10 ounces of genuine cowhide, and we'll lay down a zigzag going down. All right, you ready? And I guess I couldn't tick off the people that don't want me to play music when we're sewing off because I talked so long. Wow, that's a news flash. Scott talks a lot? Yeah, right. The music is over now. So now you can just listen to the machine. So you can't give me a thumbs down now because I was playing music with the sew-off. Well, you could. I mean, if you want. It's up to you. All right, here we go. Single layer, 3 to 4 ounces, genuine cowhide on Carol's CL21A. Boy, it's quiet, isn't it? Super quiet. Here we go. Super quiet. Wow, it's so quiet. Today our term is, that was easy. That was super easy. I feel like I'm in the movie Elf right now. I like whispering too. Any of you that have watched the movie Elf, you know that scene where he says that. I like whispering too. All right. I'll show you the... Actually, I probably should show it now just because it'll be more difficult to see once we fold it over, probably. It might be more difficult to see. All right. So again, a single layer of genuine cowhide. Can we all say in one voice, perfect stitch? The spacing, the formation, presentation of the stitch, just absolutely gorgeous in every respect. Absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous stitch. And as I flip it over, let's take a look at the lock stitch. Again, this is genuine cowhide. I'll kind of turn it, well, my screen's facing, good Lord. No, I'm really off camera. Ah! Hold on a second. All right, let me lock it in place. Just so I've got it locked in place. What I wanted to show you, where I totally bumped the camera out of whack, is I wanted to show you from the side what we just went through. That is not thin leather, folks. That's the thick of thick when it comes to genuine cowhide. Again, like I said, conservatively, about 4 ounces of genuine leather. And as you heard, because I had no music playing, he's emphasizing again he had no music playing. Yep, I am. As you heard, the machine did it like with no effort at all. It just did it like done. And these lock stitches are just absolutely spot on. I could try to pull them back, but I really don't have to. I mean, you just can look at them and go, wow. And again, this is about 4 ounces of genuine cowhide. And again, as I've said a million times, as soon as you end up pushing that needle through the leather, going down, you've got the benefit of gravity. When you're coming back up, you're fighting gravity. And so the result of that, get that from the top, you can just see how thick that stuff is. The result of that is it's always harder to get a nicely defined lock stitch because you have that factor of that you're having to overcome. It's like a rocket taking off from the earth. You've got that gravitational pull. It's the same thing when you're trying to come back up through the leather with that needle and with that thread. You're fighting that gravitational pull. And so to get a lock stitch on Carol's machine that looks as good as this, I mean, it's just telling you that this machine is absolutely running at the top of its game. Okay, I'm going to have to totally adjust this camera again as I get ready to do this next sew-off because I had it standing high enough I couldn't even see. Oh yeah, we're off just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to, and I should probably backtrack just a little bit. You saw this in the opening of the premiere. There's our badge mark, Sweden automatic. And the automatic is predominantly because of the factor that it has this little magical area over here called the Bobbin Winding Assembly Area. And with that Bobbin Winding Assembly Area, you've got a really cool feature. Okay, I'll just demonstrate it. Doggone it. It's got a really cool feature where with most machines, at the top of the shot there, you can see that balance wheel. And you can see, if you're new to Swedish Beauties, if you're new to this channel, you can see immediately there's no clutch to disengage on that balance wheel. There's a screw, but if you take that off, then the machine's not going to be a happy camper. So the way the Swedish have designed this, and I think brilliantly, as usual, the way the Swedish have designed this is they've designed it so that all you need to do to wind a bobbin is to pop that bobbin on, thread it up appropriately, and you're ready to rock and roll. Let me show you what I mean. So if I step on the foot controller right now, and this machine is threaded up, I'm going to get a heck of a mess. But because, and actually I'll get this other one set up real quick. I might as well do that because I'm ready to go. Let's see here. How's that going to line up? Give me a second here, folks. I'm trying to get our next sew-off set up because I know I'm kind of delaying us a little bit. All right. Presser foot is down. I'm just checking my presser foot pressure because I got some pretty thick leather on here now. Okay, so my point is this, that if you want to wind a bobbin with most machines, you've got to do a variety of different things to get ready for that. With this Swedish Beauty being an automatic, all you do is pop that bobbin onto the bobbin winder, and now I can step on that foot controller, and this shot isn't quite wide enough for you to see that needle, which I probably should do. Oh, it's real close. I didn't do too bad. See what I was doing? I was getting that leather set up underneath the presser foot over there. So all I did was pop this bobbin on, and now I'm going to step on the foot controller. And I'm able to right away wind a bobbin. And setting up the winding a bobbin on a Swedish Beauty is not difficult at all. Matter of fact, I could show you that real quick too. I think this is all helpful, although it obviously kind of throws our timing off a little bit. Let me see if I can do that real quick. Just come off the tripod and show you a shot of my finger. So on the rear of Carol's machine, you can obviously see we have two spool pins. Right now on the spool pin here, I've got the thread for sewing, and then this other spool pin can be used, or should be used, I should say, for bobbin winding. And what you're going to do is you're going to set up your spool right here. This is your first thread guide right here that you're going to use. Let's see if I can use my zoom on this next one. And then you're going to go straight down to this thread guide. And the way you're going to do this is when the thread, where's my finger? When the thread comes down from above, you're going to go underneath this little finger here and then go over the top of that tensioner that you can see around the bottom and then come straight over to where the bobbin is. And then obviously you want to, just like when you're doing other bobbin winding, you want to give a couple wraps around it and then hold on to that thread and then get you know, the process where it's winding regularly. And you can probably wind a bobbin on this machine in about 30 seconds. I mean, a full bobbin, no kidding. So pretty doggone impressive. And oh, why don't I just do that too? I'm already here. Right, Your Majesty? Might as well do it. So for threading this machine, you come off the top, you come through this guide, you come straight down to the tension control area. You're going to come down and around. Make sure you then go through that take-up spring. You can see how it's through that take-up spring. Underneath this guide right here. And then you're going to go straight up. You would go straight up, but the take-up arm is already there. Go through the take-up arm, go through this thread guide, go through this thread guide right above the needle, and then finally you're going to thread this machine from front to back. And the bobbin case, which you can't see right now because it's underneath this extension bed, when you thread that up in the bobbin case, you want to have it so that when that thread is getting pulled, that bobbin is going to be turning clockwise to the right. Which means if you were looking at that bobbin before you inserted it into the case, the thread would be coming underneath on the bottom, not over the top. Does that make sense? Okay. So just I think some helpful information. I know it's a little bit, throws our timing off just a little bit, but it's important stuff, I think, to cover. Important stuff to cover. All right, back to the sew-off at hand, which is this 2 layers of genuine cowhide. And we'll see how Carol's machine does on this. Again, I've already done a straight stitch, single layer. Now we're going to lay down a zigzag. Again, needle swing incorporated, so I'm raising the threshold even higher. And actually, you know what? I could move it over a little bit and I could lay down a straight stitch and a zigzag. Why don't I do that? Because I got enough leather and it's almost kind of wasteful just to lay down the zigzag itself. So I will do that. We already did a straight stitch through a single layer. Now we will do a straight stitch next to it with 2 layers. And then hopefully I can still fit, move that over a little bit closer even. Hopefully I can still fit a zigzag to the right of that presser foot. Does that make sense? So here again we've got about 8 to 10 ounces of genuine cowhide. I've got to take that take-up arm all the way up. And if you, and I should also take that bobbin off. You're going to hear that clutch kick back in as soon as I step on this foot controller. Because right now the clutch is disengaged, and as soon as I hit that foot controller, it's going to kick in that clutch again because I've just taken the bobbin off camera, and so hopefully it kicks in right away, and then I don't have any weird delays or anything odd happening. Today's not a good day for odd. All right, so here we go. 2 layers of genuine cowhide. Oh, I totally shifted that leather. It just totally shifted out of the way. Ugh. All right. Goofy Loofy. Whatever, you could hear that little click, and that was the clutch kicking back in. Okay. Let me lay down a zigzag next to this. I think I still have enough room. I hope I do. I'm actually going to put it on this side. Now that that clutch is engaged, we should have a smoother sail. That was kind of a rough sail. You can see, well, you'll be able to see where it's not lined up well. Right. Okay, here we go. I had to throttle it just a little bit, you know what I mean? Just a little bit. All right, let me clip that thread. So again, what we just did is 2 layers of genuine cowhide. And wow, those are gorgeous stitches. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. So let's see here. I think we'll look at both of these at the same time. So on the top row, we've got our zigzag that I put down last. And as you can readily see, just absolutely gorgeous stitching, just like the straight stitch on the bottom. And that straight stitch on the bottom is our second sew off when we laid down the stitches through 2 layers. Absolutely gorgeous stitching in every respect. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. And we'll be able to look at that lock stitch on the other side now. So from start to finish, we're looking at on the top row, look on the top row for our zigzag. And then we've got our 2 rows of straight stitching on the bottom. Just absolutely spectacular in every respect. The spacing, the formation. It's just absolutely spot on. And again, if I turn it to the side, you'll be able to see what we're looking at as far as thickness. Again, we're talking 2 layers. I've got my screen facing the wrong way. 2 layers of genuine cowhide, 8 to 10 ounces of leather, and the Swedish Beauty went through it. Carol's Swedish Beauty went through it just like was totally effortless, no difficulty whatsoever. Absolutely ease, with absolute ease. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do one more sew off on this genuine cowhide because all I have left is the U.S. Army grade canvas. And I'm going to shorten this stitch up a little bit because along with needle swing, the way that you can make it much more difficult for a machine from a sew-off standpoint is if you've got that stitch shortened significantly. So I'm going to see if I can do that real quick just so we can see how Carol's machine does. And you know what else I should do? I should sew it with the slow gear. And if you're new to this channel, or if you have never heard of a Swedish Beauty before, you have no idea what a slow gear is, do you? Take that take-up arm all the way up. So what I did is I reduced our stitch length, and you can't see a thing right now on camera, can you? What I did is I reduced our stitch length, and this is our stitch length on top. And that's our reverse button right in the center of that knob. I probably should have covered that before, shouldn't I? And there's our stitch width. And that little metal tab on top that you can kind of see sticking up is a start and stop point for doing buttonholes. And then just below that, we've had so many Swedish Beauties on this channel, I just assume you know. That little knob on the bottom with a little white dot, that's to drop your feed dogs. And then last but not least, we've got our controller here for accessing the cams that this machine is capable of sewing. Okay, blah, 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 blah. So I shortened our stitch length to 3. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to this side by the bobbin winding assembly. We already saw that area when we put the bobbin on there and disengaged the clutch. And what I'm going to do now is grab the outer ring and I'm going to pull it out so I can engage that slow gear. It's that easy. So I just pulled it out, and what we should do now is we should take that motor from running at full speed and reduce it all the way down to 1/5 of its normal speed. And that's even if you push the foot controller all the way to the floor. You're only going to get 1/5 of the power out of that motor. And it's through a gear reduction that the Swedish brilliantly came up with to allow you to have greater control when you're doing sewing. It's not to increase the power. I've said that in other premieres as well. It's not to increase the power. A lot of people will argue that, but there's no rational proof or reason to believe that, because you're dealing with the same motor. You're just dealing with a different gear ratio, which doesn't increase the power. It simply slows the machine down. It takes it. It's like putting a governor on a car. It prevents that motor from reaching its max because of the gear reduction. So you're only getting 1/5 of the power. Does that make sense? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and sew off this final stitch off. We've got a stitch length again set at right around 3. And we're going to be sewing this with our slow gear, which I know is something of keen interest to Carol. She really, when we were talking about the Swedish Beauty, she in particular was super excited about the idea of having that slow gear. So I want you to listen to the machine running, and you'll be able to hear where that gear reduction has basically squelched that 1.5 amp motor and said, nope, we're going to slow you down to 1/5 speed. So you ready? All right, here we go. How cool is that? I love it. Oh gosh. So I'm going to push off camera. I'm going to push that bobbin back, the bobbin winder assembly, the little black thing I pulled out. I'm going to push it back in so that this. Yep, you just heard a. You may have heard a click. There's a click, so that gear is switched back, so the machine can run full power. All right, so what I'm going to do now is show you this reduced size stitch that we just did. It's going to be on the top row. And again, we sewed it with Carol's slow gear. All right, let's get over there. So this is the stitch row that we just laid down right here. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The spacing, the formation, just absolutely spot on. Absolutely gorgeous. If I flip it over, now we're looking at that lock stitch. Look at it from the side. That's absolute insanity. Now we're looking at that top row there, the one we just sewed with that slow gear. Absolutely gorgeous in every respect. Spacing, the formation, the presentation of the stitch is just absolutely spot on. Again, through about 8 to 10 ounces of genuine cowhide. Trying to move it real slow and steady so that I don't goof up the appearance of the stitches. But that's just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. It really is. And if I kind of lock it in place and just show you again from the side what we just laid down. I don't know if you can see that. Which way am I going? 8 to 10 ounces of genuine cowhide and just absolutely spectacular stitching from Carol's machine. So I'm going to throw that to the back as well as an obvious pass. And no, I did not remember to change out the needle. I did a ton of confirmation sew-offs to test the machine after I got done restoring it, and totally forgot to change out the needle. So if anything weird happens, that's why. Maybe I should put like a checklist together. I've got a checklist. It's 126 blocks of getting the machine ready. I probably should have 127 on that last block put down. Did you change the needle? All right, let me do this. Let me grab a quick drink of water, and then we'll do our final sew off on Carol's CL21A. Yeah, what should we put on? Let's put on Chase Scoring Action. No idea what that is. What do you think of Carol's extension bed? Stop salivating, you're getting all over the bed. You see why I call these Swedish beauties the equivalent? They're the equivalent of a long arm quilting machine. Look at the space between the pillar and the needle. Look at the vertical space. And look at the overall bed length for turning material. Just absolutely crazy. All right, let me zoom in on that again. And I'll turn the music down, but I think I'm gonna leave it playing. I kind of like this. This is dramatic. All right, our final sew off. I really haven't done any of the decorative stitches. I don't even remember which cam is in the machine right now. Carol's going to be getting cams A, B, and C. And gosh, I guess I could do some of those, couldn't I? That would be, I'm sure she'd like to see that. Okay, so my original plan was to do 8 layers of US Army grade canvas, which I could still do, I suppose, and then I could rip it apart. Yeah, I don't know. I don't need to prove that this machine is strong. If you don't believe it by now, then you're never going to believe it. So, all right, so let's just do 2 layers of US Army grade canvas, and we'll focus on the decorative output of Carol's machine. How does that sound? So the first one I'm going to do is in position 5. Again, and you can't see a thing I'm talking about. On the side of this little slider, you're not going to be able to see it because the numbers are on the other side. On the other side of that slider, there's numbers 1 through 5. And we're going to go through those different stitches that are in whatever cam I have in the machine. I think it was cam, may have been cam C. I have no idea. I'll have to look. Actually, you know what I could do is I could look on the back of the workbench and see which cams are there, and then I would know. Gosh, I'm so smart. Okay, on the back of the workbench I've got cam C and I've got cam A, which means in the back of Carol's machine is cam what? Yep, you guessed it right, cam B. So let's give that a try. And off camera what I'm going to be doing, actually I won't do it yet, because in position 5 should be a standard zigzag. So I'm going to go ahead and just sew down with a zigzag, and then we'll just move rapidly through all of the different stitches all the way down to stitch 1. Right now we're in stitch number 5 on the slider. Okay, you ready? So this should be, if I don't have it inverted, this should be a standard zigzag. And again, it's going to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more narrow, because I've got it set on 3 right now for overall stitch length. All right, here we go. Intentionally taking it slow because I'm just trying to, if I don't have the benefit of that slow gear to kind of harness this down, I just have to battle this puppy a little bit with all of that amperage in the back, just ready to get the job done. Such a strong machine. And you know, the thing that oftentimes people will forget about the Swedish Beauties is it's not a direct drive machine. It's not a direct drive machine like the recent 500A you saw, where that it has no belt and there's a worm gear that interlaces with the balance wheel. and then you have that positive traction. There's two belts on, I mean, there's probably, if you, depending on how you count them, there's a long belt, there's a short belt, which are predominantly going to dictate how the machine launches. And then beyond that, there's obviously a couple of timing belts as well. But, and off camera, what I'm doing is I'm zeroing out the stitch width, which again is that bottom knob just above the feed dog drop. And you do that so that you can then slide that slider to the next position much more easily. So now I moved it from position 5 to position 4. And then I'm moving the stitch width back to 4, and then because we're now getting into the decorative utility type stitches, now I'm shortening that stitch length dramatically from 3 where we were at all the way down to about 0.75. And I could show you on the screen what that looks like, because otherwise you're saying we have no idea what 0.75 looks like if you are as math challenged as I am. So you can see we moved this all the way. We were all the way over here on 3. And I don't know, that light might be kind of, yeah, you can see it. The light's kind of reflecting off of it a little bit. We moved it all the way from 3 all the way down just between the 0.5 and the 1. Because a lot of the decorative stitches are going to require a much shorter stitch length. And I'm seeing my battery real low. I better stop talking and just get this done. Otherwise, you're not going to see it. Okay, so let me do this. Let me get this locked in place. We'll go through, we've got to go through all these other stitches. And again, each time that I switch, move that slider, I zero out this stitch width. I put it all the way to 0. I move the slider and then I move it back to 4. If that makes sense. Okay, it's so quiet down here, it's crazy. Okay, so this is stitch number 4 on cam, what did we say, cam B? Yeah, cam B, I think that's cam B. Yeah, cam B. All right, here we go. That's kind of a neat stitch. It's kind of like my building block stitch, but it looks like I probably could make it even shorter than I did, which maybe I'll do that. I'll adjust that even a little bit lower. We're way down there right now, although my stitch width is set quite high right now. And again, you can do this the way you want to do it. Carol is going to do it much more differently. She might decide to go all the way down to 0.5 or maybe even below that. As long as you get movement, if you set the stitch length too short, you're going to get a mess because the material is not going to basically be moving at all. But this is what I'm going to probably leave it at. I'll probably stick with 0.7. I might go just a hair lower. Yeah, I think I'll go to like 0.5. So again, I'm moving the stitch width to 0. I'm going to grab that slider and move it to stitch 3 now. Making sure I didn't go too far. Yeah, I think that's correct. Moving to stitch 3, I move the stitch width back to 4. And now we're going to buzz down on this next stitch. You ready? All right, here we go. Oh, I better get my take-up arm. All the way up. Here we go. That's kind of a cool one too. Again, I could probably make it even shorter than I am. I might do that again. I've already moved it down to like 0.5. I just want to keep the material moving, you know what I mean? I don't want to stall it out or I'm going to create a mess. And there's no messes allowed during a premiere, right? I don't think there is. Maybe there is. Okay, so that's our last stitch right there that we just did. Draw my presser foot, zero out the stitch width, and now we're going to move our slider from 3 to 2. Our stitch width from 0 back to 4, and now we're going on with our next stitch. We only have one more stitch after this, I believe. We're in stitch number 2 on cam B right now, and then we're going to be doing our final stitch, which is the stitch number 1 on cam B. You ready? All right, here we go. Alright, needle up. Yeah, this is a favorite stitch of mine as well. I like this one. Clip, 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 clip. Boy, it's so utterly quiet. It's warm enough today. Well, it's not really warm, especially if you compare it to California or Arizona or somewhere else. But it's a little bit warmer. It's less windy today, so the furnace isn't running as much. I don't have my heater running right now, which I normally do. It has that kind of hum in the background. So what I'm doing now, I'm checking to make sure my camera's still running. Oh wow, I'm really low. My batteries. So I'm moving stitch width to 0. I'm going to slide it all the way to position 1, which is our final stitch. Okay, and I'm going to move our stitch width back to 4. And now we're going to do our final stitch, which is stitch number 1 on cam B. All right, here we go. Oh, take up arm all the way up. Here we go. Well, if you noticed I was going a little bit faster, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself. This last one is really kind of a funky, it's almost like a 3-point stitch. It's really cool. I like it. I like this one a lot. This is really neat too. All right, let me give these a clip and then we'll look at all of these stitches, and these are all the stitches that are on cam B. We started with stitch number 5, which, by the way, if you don't know it, on the Swedish Beauties with these black cams, and the black cams are going to look like this for the Swedish Beauties, the green machines, like this. Which these things are almost like gold. They're very, very difficult to come by. So when it comes to these cams, in position 5 is always going to be a zigzag, just so you know that. So if you have a Swedish Beauty and you have the black cams, just know that the position 5 is going to be the zigzag on all of the cams. And then positions 4 through 1 on the cam is going to be whatever stitches are on that cam. So hopefully that makes some sense. All right, let me set this up. Maybe I should set it up. Trying to see how I should set it up because on the bottom it's not even, and I'm hoping it doesn't fall over. I don't think it'll fall over. Here, I'll put my clips right in front of it so I can keep it from tipping, hopefully tipping. All right. So again, we have cam B and Carol's machine right now, and I can kind of zoom in. Maybe we'll look at 2 at the same time because I'm getting pretty low on power. So the first one we did on top is that standard zigzag. Again, that's position 5 on cam B. Actually, position 5 on all cams, whether it's A, B, C, or D. And then we went to position 4 just below that and got kind of a building block, although I didn't make it nearly tight enough. Didn't nearly make it tight enough. And then position 3 is right below it. It's kind of that shell design which again, if I made that a little bit shorter and a little bit less wide, it would be much better defined. So again, what, 5, 4, 3. Here's 2. Looks almost like hills, doesn't it? So that's stitch 2 on cam B. And then last but not least, we have stitch 1 on cam B right here on the bottom. And it's kind of a cool 3-point stitch. It almost looks like a flower kind of across the top there. But again, as you adjust stitch length and stitch width, when it comes to the cam output, you can totally change the look of any of these stitches. Give them a totally different look so they're just unrecognizable from what you're seeing right now here. Then if we turn it over, we can look at the lock stitch. And the lock stitch is going to be just, there's no difference. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous, as you can already see. Kind of zoom in on the first 2 top rows, blah, 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 blah. And as I'm looking at these, I'll be honest with you, as I'm looking at these stitches on the lock stitch, I'm seeing an upper tension that is probably a little bit more dominant than that bobbin case is right now. In other words, for example, you can't tell so much with the zigzag, but if you look at that building block stitch and you even look at my shell stitch below it, those 2 that I'm kind of zeroed in on right now, I think that they're a little bit better defined on the lock right now, which is telling me that we could probably make a slight adjustment to give that top stitch a little bit more definition, and we would do that by reducing our upper tension just slightly, which would give that bobbin pull a little bit more pull down and would define our top stitch just a little bit better. I'm liking the way these look on the bottom for the lock stitch more than I did with that top stitch. I don't know if you agree or not, but that's a product of right now our upper tension is doing a heck of a job in defining these better than the bobbin case is able to do with that top stitch. So it's a simple fix. The simple fix is you back off that upper tension just slightly, and then you could bring these into better balance so that that top stitch is going to be just as poppy as these are. But I tend to be super, super particular. These are gorgeous, as are the stitches that are the top stitches on the other side. These are gorgeous stitches. But I look at it from a real technical standpoint and say, how can I get them absolutely balanced as close to perfection as possible? So, but Carol's CL21A is an absolutely fabulous machine, whether it's the heavy-duty sewing that we did, whether it's these 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas where we laid down a wide scope of decorative stitches from cam B, and the machine did just a fabulous job. So I know that this machine is going to serve Carol extremely well out in New Hampshire, you know, she's going to be able to enjoy this machine for many years to come, and just delight in all of the options that it has. Again, we didn't even see the stitches that are on cams A and C, and if I remember correctly, cam C has some really cool decorative stitching on it as well. So I'll just lay these out real quick. We're not going to zoom in on them. I'm just kind of laying them out as a reminder of what we did, and also to evidence all this stuff we can lay out and still have extra bed width and bed space because it's so huge. It's a Swedish long arm quilting machine basically. So on the far left you can see are all the decorative stitches we just did. Then we have our 2 layers of genuine cowhide. Then we have our single layer of protected full grain leather. And then we have our 2 layers of nylon webbing on the far right. And in every single stitch off that we did, every confirmation sew off I should say, that we did to evidence that this machine is ready to get the job done, it just did a spectacular job. So Carol, your Swedish Beauty is soon going to be packed up very carefully and heading towards you out in New Hampshire, and then you can have a lot of fun with her. And then underneath the roof, your husband will have to deal with 2 Swedish Beauties. That'll be fun. All right. Well, just a reminder again, for any of you that are tuning in for the first time or have tuned out and are tuning back in, 1 week from this past Friday, what's an easier way to say it? This last Friday is May the 8th. May the 8th. 1 week from that Friday, May the 15th, is when our mega contest ends. Our mega contest, again, is we're giving away a Centennial 201-2. You heard me right. Giving away a Centennial 201-2, the Rolls-Royce of Singer sewing machines. And that video is posted on YouTube, as is the post in conjunction with that premiere announcement on Facebook. And on Facebook is where you need to post the information so you can get yourself entered into this contest to try to win this amazing, amazing Centennial Singer 201-2. And on top of the machine, I'm also throwing in the shipping as well for anyone within the continental US. So if you're between the West Coast and the East Coast, everything in between, you get the machine plus you get free shipping. Other remote places of the US or international folks that enter the contest will obviously incur some shipping costs. But even then, to get a machine of that caliber, it's not much from a shipping standpoint. As I've said in other premieres, you can ship a machine from the US to England or England to the US for right around 150 bucks. And to get a machine that I would normally sell for close to $600, fully restored, lifetime warranty, you're getting a heck of a deal. And we have a number of folks that have already entered that contest. So you got some stiff competition, but you still have time. You can enter that contest as long as you get that entry posted before midnight Central Standard Time on the 15th of this month, 15th of May. You can try to get entered to win that Centennial Singer 201-2. So, and eventually, hint, hint, poke, poke, in one of our next upcoming major giveaways, maybe when we hit 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000 subscribers, I'm gonna be giving away a Swedish Beauty. I'm not going to say when. Either 8,000, 9,000, or 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a Swedish Beauty. And we're talking about the full package, just like Carol's. All kinds of nifty attachments, extension bed, carrying case, fully restored. I mean, it's going to be the cat's meow. So if you somehow miss this contest for the 201-2 and you kick yourself hard, keep the faith. In one of the upcoming contests leading up to 10,000 subscribers, you may have the opportunity to win a machine just like you see on screen right now. So how can I make it even better? We're just going to keep making it better, folks. With your input, with your ideas, with your involvement in this channel, how can we do anything else? Well, God bless. Again, I'm hoping that mothers have a wonderful Mother's Day. And Carol, I know you're going to have a fabulous time once this amazing Swedish Beauty ends up getting delivered to your doorstep. Okay? Take care, everybody. And thanks for being faithful followers. And remember, if you're watching this premiere or if you're watching other videos and you haven't clicked subscribe yet, click subscribe, please. Why am I whispering? Because it's so quiet. Take care, everybody. God bless.